America, my name is Osei-Frimpong. I come to you live every Thursday. I'm a little bit late today. I forgot about the show a little bit, but I want to tell you, we can talk to men about manhood, all sorts of things, because a lot of guys have very distorted notions of what it is to be a man. They don't know. They think they know, and they're men, and they're taught a certain way, but it's all screwed up, and so they have distorted notions of gender and responsibilities and what gender means. They have a distorted notion of what gender means. They have a distorted notion of what it is to be a man. We could say that to them. We can tell men that. We can tell men that they are screwed up. They have distorted notions of gender and they have distorted notions of men. We can do that and you'll get plotted to, and it's a very needed intervention on some class of men. However, we have a hard time doing the same thing about women. But why is it so hard to believe that women have a distorted notion of what gender means, and they have a distorted notion of what it means to be a woman, and that it might be self-serving? They have a notion, and this is why I get in trouble with feminists, because I think feminists are a problem. So if you have a distorted notion of what gender means, and you have a distorted notion of what it means to be a woman, then there needs to be an intervention that happens. And a lot of gender is a kind of a cover for a form of tyranny. And anyone who's been tyrannized by women working under a distorted notion of what it means to be a woman and the entitlements that comes with that, it's supposed to, like, for example, as a black guy, I've been sicked on. Women like to sick authorities onto me for some reason, because that's what we do in America. We sick authorities onto black guys. And if you don't understand that as being like an articulated part of womanhood, then like you're distorted about what womanhood is. The ability to sick authorities onto black guys, it's part of what it is. And so you need to understand that that's a perk that some women don't want to give up. Even if they want to be feminists in some way, they don't want to give up that ability to sick authorities onto the random Negro, the area Negro. So there are aspects of womanhood that women don't want to admit are aspects of womanhood that need to be redressed, because they're also part of an unjust society. And since all of these identities are kind of worked together, if you have a distorted notion of gender, for example, it'll end up becoming, it ends up becoming anti-black really quickly. For example, if you have a distorted notion of gender that you don't want anyone, that you don't think any man has any authority to tell you about, all right, so all of a sudden your distorted notion of gender goes into no man to tell me not just about what it is to be a woman, but also motherhood, right? So now I'm in a place where not only I cannot tell you anything about what it is to be a woman, I can't tell you anything about what it is to be a mother. Meanwhile, you're screwing up raising your kid that now I have to deal with, who might shoot me. The Buffalo shooter was given a gun by his mom. The Buffalo shooter, the guy who shot up the grocery store. So I'm not supposed to say that she has a distorted notion of what it is to be a mother. How dare you tell me what it is to be a mother? Well, this is the problem, right? I need to be able to tell you what it is to be a mother, because you have a distorted notion of what it is to be a mother because you raise people who shoot people. And so this idea that just because you've worked hard and you love your kid means that you're very good at this thing called mothering is confused. And if you're going to hide under gender about why I can't critique it, that's going to be a confusion too. So we need to talk to women about women. We need to talk to trans people about trans people. I was in a conversation today with a trans person, and they were saying that, like, well, they're trans before they enter any room, so it's like it's not as if their identity is realized in the institution. Their identity exists prior to their entering the institution. And I thought that's pretty ridiculous. It's kind of a ridiculous stand to think that you have an identity before you actually participate in any institution. For example, my dad from Ghana, he was not black before he came to the U.S. He was from his tribe. He spoke Twi. He was from Ghana, but everyone in Ghana is black, right? So like you're not black until you're in the U.S. And a lot of white people from, Ireland or Slovakia or whatever, they weren't white until they came into the U.S. And then they because being white meant they treated black people like that way. So like these identities are constructed through interactions in society, right? So I suggested that like it's possible that she has a kind of a confused notion of how these identities work if you think that they're pre-social in every way. You can't make sense of anything about gender or sexuality or anything without social institutions. It's embedded in what it is to be us. Like we're social creatures, so it makes sense that all of these identities are abstract to the point of worthless until we talk about the social institutions through which they are realized. Right. But I'm not supposed to say that because this person was trans and, well, they're trans and wrong about sexuality. And, it's hard critiquing trans people who are wrong about sexuality because they put a lot of time and effort and hormones and paperwork into like becoming what they are. And I support them and I'll confirm them. Like, that's why confirmation is relevant, because it's socially constructed. If it happened before that, like the society, confirmations wouldn't be that big of a deal. But so, it's hard. They put in all this effort only to be not fundamentally, but deeply confused about what it means to be gender. That's on them, but I'm not going to hush about it because it ends up being my problem, because that identity ends up distorting other identities. For example, you got a guy at the Washington Post, Dave Weigel, who got fired for retweeting a joke that some people think was sexist, and even if the joke was sexist, it's not, you can't just like fire someone over their bad sense of humor, right? It like didn't have the national word, or for women it didn't have the C word or anything like that. It was a bad joke. You could say it created a bad hostile work environment, but he tweeted on his personal Twitter account, so he gets to say things that he thinks are funny on his personal Twitter account. But anyway, so they suspended him. They suspended him. And you don't want a world where people can't talk for fear of being suspended from work. That is a form and a problem that is a form and a problem that should be covered under the First Amendment. Like, we need political speech, and that kind of speech matters. Jokes matter. There should be some sort of protection from civil haranguing, right? Like, you can't call, and the joke wasn't hate speech. And if, insofar as that was hate speech because someone felt some sort of way about it, we need to redefine hate speech, because it can't just be that. It can't be speech that just makes people feel bad. I make people feel bad every day. You can take any 3 hours of my day and just like cordon that off, and that will be considered like, and like you take any transcript of anything I've read or said in any 3 hours of my day, and you could find something that abused somebody. I could be accused of abuse because it made someone feel a certain sort of way. So that can't be the standard, making people feel a certain sort of way because of your speech. And so if we can't critique women on how they consider gender, then like we're pretty much seeding them an entire bazooka. And like this is the kind of stuff that's going to end up like breaks bad in awful ways. We can't call Elizabeth Warren a liar for like trying to like weaponize her gender against Bernie Sanders by saying that he said that women can't be president. Bernie Sanders did not say anything like that. Liz Warren lied, and we couldn't call Liz Warren a lying liar who lies because it's somehow déclassé to do that. Although we all know she just lied because she wanted to get an edge. So we need to actually talk to. And just because you are a certain thing doesn't mean you understand what it is to be a certain thing. You might have a distorted relationship with it. For example, some people who get laughed at, some people have a distorted notion of reality, right? So, for example, some people think they're funny, but really they're just really good looking. Some bosses think that they're funny, but really they're just the boss. So they have a distorted notion of reality. So just because you somehow inhabit the thing doesn't really mean that you know what it is you're doing. You don't know what it is you're doing. By the way, if you support what it is I'm doing and you think more people should support what it is I'm doing, then go over to www.flunkyacademic.com and kick in $5, $15, or $50 a month. Because nobody else is going to tell you to talk the truth to women about womanhood. Or gender. Like we have to be able to say that blank and blank woman doesn't have any, like, is confused about what she's talking about, even if what she's talking about is gender, because it's not just gender. It'll all of these identities are realizations of kind of the same kind of thing. So it'll be motherhood, then it'll be parenting, and then what it is to be a marriage. And like, if you give people that kind of trump card in one aspect of their identity, since they're all linked, it'll be weaponized in all aspects of identity, and pretty soon, and then you end up with kind of vacuous political talk, right? So it's possible. I don't know what it's like to be black in America. It's possible. It's possible. Like if someone said I'd like to hear it. I'd like to hear the argument before I say out of hand, right? I mean, if you grow up and if you're like one of the small percentage of black people who grow up in like, a neighborhood that's not representative of black life or white life, honestly, then you might be confused. I mean, that might be confused, and you shouldn't actually probably be speaking on behalf of black people. But, some people grow up in those neighborhoods and are confused about what it means to be black. And they need to be talking to, and they could even get talked to by a white person. And actually, white people know what it is to be black because they're the ones who treat black people like black people, right? So that might actually be so white people can actually be very incisive about what it means to be black. And also black people can be very incisive about what it means to be white because we have to deal with them and their entitlements. So that's be very, very suspicious of people who think they own these public categories of identity. Be very, very suspicious of them because they're trying to own them to weaponize them against you and your justice claim. All right. So thank you for the time. I hope this has been helpful. Look, I'm going to scoot out. I have to scoot out for the next, I think 2 weeks. I might be back in a week, but I definitely aren't going to be here for next week. I got to go with the family and do some family things about for the next week. So I'm not going to be here next week, but I love you. I appreciate you. You guys do good for me. I do good for you. Go back, look at a backlog of some of the videos. I've been saying some fascinating things over the last stretch. So, go back and refresh yourself, and I will see you. I will see you in a week and a half, talking about something completely different. But just know that if you can't talk to women about womanhood, they're going to use womanhood against you. Yeah. If you can't talk to women about womanhood, they will use womanhood against you. And just because, and same with trans, like everyone these are public identities worked out in the public. So they need to be worked out in the public, and everyone has a say. Like some people say it might be bad. It might be like not particularly insightful, or like explanatorily powerful, but they have to have a say because nobody has some sort of ownership over these public identities. They're worked out. They're like language. They're worked out. They're worked out among the people. All right. Thank you for your time. And I will see you in a week and a half. Peace.